Changes are on the way regarding where the snow falls. At least it looks like that to me as we head into February. This is the current snow cover across the country right now. Clearly, a little bit of snow still left here across the Central Plains, back into Kansas, and then a little bit of snow also across the southeast. We're starting to see that melting, and I think what's going to happen is more melting here and more snow falling back into this region. Here's a quick look at the models. I'm going to just let this run out really far, and this is an operational run. We've got the snow across the Rockies into the Northeast. That's going to happen, but one system possibly bringing some snow to the central part of the country heading into the weekend, and maybe even more after that. If you look at the probabilities of seeing more than 6 inches of snow, clearly it's starting to jump up in this region as we head toward the weekend, that's next weekend, and into the following week into February. So a long way to go before we get there. Let's talk about what feels a little bit more certain, and that's what's going on across the southwest and the warm-up that's happening further to the east. We've got some much-needed precipitation falling across California, eventually into parts of Arizona, parts of Utah too. Snow in the mountains could exceed several inches. In fact, there's winter storm warnings out, winter weather advisories for this part of the country, and then some of that tries to spread east into parts of New Mexico heading into the middle part of next week. Here's a big picture look at what's going on across the country. High pressure across the southeast here, warmer temperatures, so some of that snow, at least what's left, is continuing to melt here across the deep south. And then we have a system moving through the Great Lakes. That's going to bring some light snow here to southern Ontario, into the Great Lakes, eventually into the northeastern United States. An upper low, it's like a bowling ball of cold air, if you will, spinning right across California. That's going to continue to meander here off the coast. It's going to bring some onshore flow, some precipitation here. The concern would be now precipitation and rain and snow falling across burn scar areas. Really, the rain is the issue, right? So something to be aware of in this part of the country. And then we see showers increase across the Gulf Coast as we head into Monday. Another system moving through the northeast is going to swing through Ontario and into the northeastern states, bringing a shot of some really cold Arctic air. We're going to look at that in just a second. And this back here is our player. That it's just going to be, I don't know how to say it other than super difficult to forecast, because imagine you have this spinning lobe of fluid and your main river of motion is up here, and now you've got this thing down here just spinning like this. So as the atmosphere moves along, again, your wind's up here just pushing this way, and this is, again, a cutoff low just down here spinning, right? Look at it. It's still there as we head into Friday. Because there's not a driving feature to this pocket of cold air, that's what's going to cause the sensible weather that you feel. It's going to be very difficult for the models to grasp where this goes. However, take a look what the operational European does. You've got a lot of warm air here. Underneath it, you've got this cold air loft. So the Arctic air is not what's going to bring this first round of snow, I think, here to parts of the plain states. It's just going to be that cold air loft that moves through, and you're dynamically cool enough to see snow. That's going to be a really tricky forecast, and you can see why, because, again, that cold Arctic air is still locked way to the north. Too warm for any snow on the eastern side of this. We're going to get some rain showers out of this heading into next weekend. And then behind that, your trough swings into the west now. It turns cold here, and it looks like snow is becoming more likely across the Rockies, and now you've got to watch the Central Plains into the Great Lakes for some sort of system to develop here and then just ride northeast along your boundary between warmer air to the east and your colder air to the west and northwest heading into next weekend and the following week. That's the trend I see, and I think that's why when you look at the ensemble guidance, which is using 51 different members, coming up with an average, and you're seeing that focus between all of those members with at least, what is this, probably a 40 to 50% chance of more than 6 inches of snow. I don't see any snow here to the south over the next week or so, certainly with this pattern that we're seeing set up now. We've looked at what's going on really far out. Let's look a little bit closer to home here at where you are. We're going to start here in the central and the eastern U.S. and then move west. These snow showers moving through the Great Lakes through the weekend will continue, and the lake effect will really start to pick up off of Lake Ontario, which, by the way, remains largely unfrozen when compared to with, you see this orange here across Lake Erie, which is mainly frozen right now. That will continue into Sunday, into Monday. There's the showers moving across the south, trying to show a little bit of snow mixing in here in the mountains of North Carolina. I don't know that we see that. That's very, very light at best. And then some drier weather, and then here comes another Arctic blast of air. That's just going to really dive into the northeast, putting temperatures below average. Not so cold across the south, though. Back across the Mississippi River Valley, north up toward the Great Lakes. We will get some snow up here toward Wisconsin, into Michigan with this next system, too, heading into Wednesday. That'll put some lake effect snow off of Lake Michigan, also Lake Superior, also into Ontario off of Lake Huron. And with more of a northwest flow trajectory, this snow could get into places like Rochester versus just straight up here into the Tug Hill Plateau. Now we've got snow showers all the way down into the mountains of West Virginia, Southwest Virginia, and your cold air pushing a little bit further south on Thursday, but it doesn't last as it retreats and we see warm air start to move in from the southwest. Snowfall amounts through Sunday morning. We've got the snow going. This includes what's happening today through Sunday morning. A couple of inches in and around the Great Lakes as we push this out a little bit further in time with more snow on the way Monday into Tuesday into Wednesday. I mean, some places up here in Ontario, you're probably going to see a foot of snow. Also over into Ottawa and down into New York, especially into western New York, back here off of Lake Erie. Although it's mostly frozen, there's still some moisture and some unfrozen water, so there will be a little bit of lake effect here, and there's the lighter snow down the spine of the mountains. Further into the northeast, the closer look here, this would be the snow closer into Maine. There will be a little bit here. Down east Maine, not nearly as much snow. Also into the big cities. We may see a few flurries at best, but certainly no big snowstorms anticipated here. This is all just northwest flow snow. Some of that may try to sneak across the mountains and downwind into the cities, but not much. All right, let's move west. This is where that upper low is spinning. This will be the big weather maker as we head into next weekend. Again, moving into California with the rain and snow showers here. That moves inland, and now the precipitation chances increase here across Arizona, New Mexico. Not a lot of moisture to work with. Clearly, look at this by midweek. The GFS really not putting a lot into this region. We may tap into, believe it or not, some Gulf moisture here heading into Thursday and Friday, pulling some of that back into Colorado and New Mexico. If you remember, earlier this winter season, we had a huge snow here in the parts of northern New Mexico and the Colorado. It was with a system very similar to this upper low that's cut off. So let's watch this heading into the week. And then that tries to ride northeast, and that puts the heavier snow again up into parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and north into Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then across the far west, more unsettled weather moving in here. I'm going to back that up because we were looking at that upper low. Precipitation moving into the Pacific Northwest, so heavy snow into the Cascades, up into British Columbia, more rain and snow into Northern California. This could be a little bit heavier, though, heading into Friday and Saturday, a much stronger system, and that puts some heavier snow into the Sierra. And look how far south this pushes. More much-needed precipitation into Southern California. Let's just hope we don't get too much of a good thing. But all in all, across the West, much more unsettled. At least it looks that way to me as we head into next weekend. Temperatures starting across the Central Plains, a little bit warmer heading into Sunday, at least compared to what we've seen lately. Monday is going to be even warmer. We're back up into the 50s for places like Lincoln, up to Des Moines, probably in the mid-40s, but still above freezing, even up to Minneapolis, even Milwaukee cracking into the mid-30s here. But as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, some colder air moves toward the Great Lakes. Temperatures dropping back well below freezing. Even Thursday afternoon, we're back into the teens and 20s here. And then our upper low starts to come into the picture back here across Colorado, New Mexico. And then, once this moves through, the next storm that would likely form along this baroclinic zone, that's the difference between warm and cold air. I mean, look at the contrast. So with this setup, I mean, I don't know that severe weather is a concern just yet. It's too far out, but you could get something going on here, some type of strong mid-latitude cyclone. That's just an area of low pressure that forms along this boundary. And pretty interesting to see that as we head into next week. Let's see how all that shapes up. Still several days away. Heading into the weekend, into next week, temperatures warming up here across the southeast, back at least near or above average in some cases, into the 60s and 70s across the deep south. Cold, though, into the northeast, teens and single digits. This is the first shot of Arctic air. Heading into Tuesday, we'll be below zero into Maine, also Vermont, New Hampshire. More cold air on Thursday. That puts us below zero into New York. Places like Albany likely getting near or below zero again heading into Friday. And this is a little bit colder here too. So that drops into at least the mid-Atlantic. Single digits for lows, maybe even below zero into the mountains of Pennsylvania, West Virginia. And then some warming happens ahead of the next system, which starts to pull out into the plain states, pushing temperatures up here somewhat. This is a look at the upper level pattern as we head into the first part of February. There's that upper low swinging out of the southwest toward the Great Lakes, and then some cold air starting to settle into the west. Now, you saw the cold air showing up on the operational run there just a moment ago. Some of the long-range guidance says it turns cold back here into the west, and then look, it tries to move back into the east sometime around the 5th through the 8th and the 9th, and that would mean more cold. And I would almost start to believe this because now you've got a ridge like this across Alaska. You're going to turn cold in the east, and that may put more storminess into the south. So if you're going to see snow back up into this region, I think it's going to happen, or at least a big storm, it's going to happen over the next week to week and a half. Beyond that, maybe back to what we've seen so far in January. Although February on average, you're starting to get a little bit warmer, at least than January, climatically. But we've seen some really cold temperatures in February before, and many records have fallen in this month. So let's see what happens. I'll be tracking it. All right, that's all I got for now. See you guys next time.